Well, first of all, thank you for all coming on such short notice today. We need to get this information out, but we had to make the appropriate notifications before we went public with it, and we were not able to accomplish that until just before I sent the email to you guys at 11:29 this morning, announcing this press conference. So that was the late notice, but I do appreciate you guys making it on such short notice. I'm going to be reading a prepared statement, a copy of which will be provided to you. Lieutenant Rossman has those. He'll give them out as soon as I start with the press release. I can also email it directly to you if you provide me with a good business card or a correct email address afterwards if you want an electronic version. As I stated in the announcement, this is a joint press conference along with the Rochester Police Department for reasons you'll hear about shortly, and Captain Moylan is here with us today for that purpose. So if there's any questions to be directed to him at the end, he's here for that purpose. Please let me read through the press release in its entirety before asking any questions, at which time both myself and RPD Captain Moylan can answer any questions that we are able to answer. This is an ongoing investigation and many details that are not disclosed here so as not to jeopardize the case as we move forward. So, on Friday, June 17th at 5:51 p.m., Olmsted County Deputies were dispatched to a deceased person call in the area of County Road 2 and 70th Avenue Northeast in Haverhill Township. The reporting party on this call had been mowing tall grass adjacent to a crop field in the area and saw what appeared to be a tarp in the grass ahead of him. He moved closer to get a better view and saw what he believed to be a human arm sticking out from under the tarp. He immediately stopped and contacted law enforcement. The first deputy arrived on scene a short time later and confirmed it was a deceased person under the tarp. Deputies established a perimeter around the area, and additional sheriff's office personnel were called to begin the investigation. The condition of the deceased made it extremely difficult to determine the identity of our victim. Because OCSO did not have any open missing person cases, OCSO investigators spoke with the Rochester Police Department regarding any recent missing persons reports that they were working on in an attempt to possibly help identify the deceased in our scene. RPD investigators provided us with reports of 2 recent missing person cases that they were working on. The Sheriff's Office requested the assistance of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, BCA, who arrived on scene and coordinated scene processing and evidence collection. Based on the names provided by RPD and the assistance of the BCA crime scene team, we began using available investigative methods to determine the identity of the deceased. The Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office responded to the scene and took possession of the deceased to complete an autopsy. Investigators from our office worked on the case throughout the weekend and were present when the autopsy was done on Monday morning, June 20th. At that time, we were still not able to positively identify the victim. Members of the BCA Latent Prints Division responded to the medical examiner's office on Tuesday, June 21st, and were able to get partial prints from the deceased. Through this process, we were able to identify our victim as Tia Mercedes Arleth, a 28-year-old female with a listed address out of Minneapolis, but with past residency and a significant history and ties to the Rochester area. It should also be noted that Ms. Arleth was one of the persons RPD had identified as one of the 2 missing persons in the information they had shared with us on the night of the original call. Ms. Arleth was reported missing to the Rochester Police Department on June 12th by her mother. She was last seen in the Rochester area on May 30th. The location and condition in which Ms. Arleth was found are considered suspicious in nature. The Sheriff's Office is currently investigating this incident and are asking the public for any information they may have to help in the investigation. We would like to thank the Rochester Police Department, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and the Medical Examiner's Office for their assistance in our investigation. And last and certainly not least, our condolences go out to the family and friends of Ms. Arleth. Their loss should be on the forefront of your and our minds as we work to find answers to their loss. What questions do you have? There is not. With the autopsy that was done, the condition of the body would make it very difficult to make a determination of cause of death.
And you're still looking for the second missing person? Do you think it's tied?
I don't believe it's tied. Captain Moylan can maybe speak on that. Don't believe they're tied. No.
Can you describe the condition of the body that made it difficult to determine?
Yeah, without traumatizing the family further, I would just say it was in a very advanced state of decomposition.
Do you know how long?
We did ask the medical examiners that too, and because of the conditions under which it was found, especially with the weather and things that we've had lately, they were not really able to give us a time of death. We do have a window that we're investigating where we think it probably could have happened, but as part of the ongoing, we're not going to give that out right now.
Any suspects?
Again, ongoing investigation, we're not excluding anything at this time. We've got investigators that have been working on it throughout, including right up until the press conference today, so they're going to continue to look at possible
What
people.
kind of correspondence have you had with her family?
Well, as I said, that was the reason that there was a late notice this morning. Our investigators, along with RPD, did a joint notification of her immediate family this morning. We did talk to them several times throughout the course of the investigation leading up to today, and unfortunately, we had to make that notification to them this morning.
Can you at this point, you call this a homicide? I mean, you don't really know, right?
Yeah, we really can't tell at this point. I think further investigation will maybe shed some light on that, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to determine that or not. We'll continue talking with
Suspicious death at this point?
at the very least, a suspicious death, the conditions where and how she was found, the condition, yeah.
But did she have like a purse or any personal belongings there?
There was some personal belongings with her that was collected as part of the investigation. We still need to review that, but there wasn't anything indicating her identification until we got those prints late yesterday.
Do you think where she was found, is this a rural area?
Yeah, it's rural, and that's partly why I'm calling it suspicious, because the exact location where she was found, which we won't talk about now, is would be extremely difficult to just happen into that area by chance.
So you think that she was put there?
Yeah, that's our belief at this time until we can prove otherwise, yes.
Anything found near the body?
Some personal effects of hers. There was one additional item that piqued our interest, and just because of the ongoing investigation, I hate to do that to you guys, we don't want to give out what that is right now because it may be important as we move forward, so
Any like weapons?
none that we found, no. No.
You say that she has a significant history and ties to Rochester. What exactly is that?
She's from here, her family's from here. She's had some interactions with the criminal justice system in the past. Been a while since we'd had contact with her, and as far as we can tell, her permanent address was in the metro, but she did travel here frequently, so she maintained a lot of family and friends down here.
Drugs involved?
Unknown at this time. That could be a factor, but really still too early to tell, especially since we don't have any toxicology back or anything.
Since you came down here often, did you find a vehicle or anything that was registered in her name?
Not that we're aware of, and we did look at it, but I think she most often traveled with acquaintances is her most frequent form of transportation, so.
This area would, I mean, how would, if somebody took the body there,
Mhm.
how far would they have to walk from a road or driveway? Or?
Quite a ways.
Really?
Yeah. It was, several of us went to the scene that night and drove our squads back there, and even then it was a pretty good distance.
So is
Off the
that
roadway?
Like on a farm or just in a wooded area?
It's on a farm site adjacent to some wooded areas, so.
So somebody really wanted to put it on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the assumption we're working under right now. Can't say for sure if that is the case, but it looks that way to us right now, but we hope to find out more to clear some questions up that we have and the family.
Do you know what, it showed she's had some warrants, do you know what they were?
I don't. I didn't look that before I came in, sorry.
But she's not like a big known criminal or anything like that.
No. I mean, she's had interactions with law enforcement, as many people have, especially when they're younger.
What are next steps here?
Continue to follow the leads that we do have. We're going to work with the BCA, and the evidence that they collected is a big one for us at this point. See if there's any forensic evidence out there. Like most cases now, we want to see if there's anything through electronic means that we can possibly use.
Autopsy, when is that expected?
So the initial autopsy was completed Monday morning. As far as the toxicology results and everything, we've seen that take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to several months. So undetermined when we're going to find out more on that.
I actually have a couple questions for RPD.
Yes, please. I will defer the stand to Captain Moylanen.
Hi,
Could you say and spell your name?
Casey Moylanen, CASEYMOILANEN.
And title?
Captain.
Can you describe RPD's role in this case?
Yeah, on June 12th, Tia's mother reported her missing to the Rochester Police Department. She noted that she was last seen on May 30th in the Rochester area. She noted that she lived in Minneapolis but has come down to Rochester very often. The case was, or the missing person report was immediately entered into NCIC, reporting her as a missing person. It was assigned to an investigator right away who began investigating her disappearance. And so that investigator tried to track down associates of hers to interview them to see if they may know where she was at. Interviewed mother again to see if she had any further information and things like that. And then when the body was discovered in the county, we worked with the sheriff's office and their investigation and such. So it was a case, unfortunately, that, or the outcome is not what we or her family or friends wanted, obviously. Our condolences go out to her family and friends, and we're going to continue to work closely with the sheriff's office to get some resolution in this matter.
What were the circumstances in which the mother reported Tia missing?
The circumstances basically were that she had not heard from her for a couple weeks, which was unusual. And so I think that's what caused her to come in and report her as missing, just because of the lack of contact the previous couple weeks.
And the family is based in Rochester?
Her mother is based in Rochester. I don't know where all of her family lives.
So within that period of time within your missing persons investigation, were there any news tips that came in, and if so, any connected to this place that the body was found?
No.
I know you guys are working with the BCA, but are you working with any other law enforcement out of the metro area on this?
Excuse me. From our end, no. We believe everything that, well, not everything, but we believe most of what we need to be following up on is here locally. And everything points to that we'll be following up here, except for the BCA, yes.
Did she have a boyfriend or kids?
I don't think there was any children. I know that she's been associated with a few different boyfriends over the years, especially again with someone her age. So,
But at this time, does she have a boyfriend like now? I mean, like before she died? Or
I believe she was seeing someone. Yeah.
It's probably hard to tell, but suspects, do you think they were known to her or not?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell any of that right now. We hopefully with the follow up, it'll start pointing us in a direction. But right now, it's kind of too early to find out. We were really concentrating on making sure the family was aware before we started really thoroughly going down some avenues.
Can you say if you've interviewed any suspects at this point?
We've interviewed several people. I don't want to call them necessarily suspects yet, or even call them suspects, but we have interviewed several people as this case moves forward.
What's the nearest residence from where her body was found?
Distance-wise, or
Roughly.
probably maybe put it at a quarter mile or so away from the location.
So it's
kinda-
unlikely anybody heard anything.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely in the location that she was found that anyone that they heard anything and possibly even saw something. But we do have some good ideas on where we want to take it moving forward as far as follow-up investigations. So
But it does also sound like you think if it is a homicide, she was killed somewhere else in that place.
that would be really hard to determine. That's our belief right now. But like I said, I don't want to call it fact at this point, just based on what we know and what we don't know. So.
So was the most difficult part of this that her body was not in the best state to determine the cause of death?
Yeah, that is probably the number one reason what's making it so difficult right now. It was frustrating on the front end for us to try and identify who we had before we could start trying to look at possible motive or suspects. More frustrating, I think, for the investigators involved and definitely for the family, because it's bad enough hearing that they lost a loved one, but then to have to talk about the condition of the body with some of those notifications are one of the hardest things law enforcement needs to do.
But then they would know, I mean, with this autopsy, I mean, if she'd been shot, right, or stabbed, or, Her head crushed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some major trauma like that, I believe they might have been able to tell. Although with the advanced decomposition, some of that they might not have been able to. So we're going under right now is that none was seen during the initial autopsy.
Was that advanced decomposition due to heat, water?
Well, the heat, the fact that she was under a tarp, like we said, contributed to that. And then it did rain off and on during the time that we're thinking. So a lot of rain combined with really high temperatures that we saw. And then the length of time. I don't even want to estimate how long it could have been, that window. But we are narrowing it down as of this morning with some information we came upon. So. But more than anything, we wanted to get it out there, 2 reasons: to offer our condolences to the family, but also if anyone out there, Ms. Arleth had a lot of friends and acquaintances who were worried about her, and if they know something, now would be the time to come forward, because she did not deserve to end up like she did and where she did.
What's the best way to get that information to you guys?
Call the non-emergency number either through dispatch or right to one of our departments. Either Rochester Police or us would be happy to take those, field them, and decide which agency needs to go and investigate, depending on what the tip is. So,
Going back to that tarp that was found, are you guys doing any testing, I take it, looking for any other DNA?
yeah, there's some additional testing going on. We're working with the BCA on what that's going to look like moving forward.
Because I'm assuming you're thinking it's not her tarp.
Again, our assumption is it's not her tarp. It very well could have been in her possessions and was used as an opportunity piece, but I wouldn't think so, how it was used, that it probably didn't belong to her.
Do you have a ballpark estimate of how long, you said that's kind of difficult, of how long she was in that spot?
Yeah, it would be really hard to tell. I think we've maybe got it narrowed down to a 10-day or 14-day window, which is about the best we'd be able to do right now without some more definitive answers from the medical examiner. But I understand with what we saw there that night and what they had to work with during the autopsy, how that would be difficult for them as well to make a determination.
What kind of discussions have you had with Metro Police and stuff like that over, because she has a history of living in the metro area?
Mm-hmm. We have not at this point. Like I said, most of the information that we have or evidence that we have at this point is going to keep it local. Although by doing the press conference today, we are hoping if someone in the metro or an agency up there has some information, that they'll reach out to us, which is common when things like this happen. A lot of times agencies see it in the media and then contact assigned investigators. So.
I can add that when we were investigating this as a missing person case, that we did work with the BCA to get the missing person information out to the Twin Cities area. There was a missing person alert that went out to the Twin Cities area asking for information anybody might have.
Have either of the departments seen a case like this before?
I'm sure there's been some similar. I can recall a handful of unidentified persons where it came up. The last one I was aware of was in 1999 when the headless bodies were found outside of Rochester. If there's more recent ones that kind of fit the mold, I guess I'm not recalling them right now, but that would have been the most recent ones similar to this.
And you believe this to be a singular, isolated incident?
We do, yes.
Is the public in any danger?
No, if we believe that to be the case, we would have definitely made announcements sooner or come forward with something sooner. We don't believe there's any danger to the public at this point or anywhere during the investigation. Do we believe that?
Anything else that stands out about this case, the investigation, that makes it difficult?
No, it's just, it's such an unfortunate circumstance what happened to this young lady, and then the state of the body just makes it that much more difficult when the investigation is already difficult enough itself when there's a deceased person. It's just another obstacle that we need to work through. So, anything, Captain? Okay.
Is it usual for you guys to call a situation like this, easily call a situation like this suspicious? Are you using that word lightly, or?
Not using it lightly, no. We're usually pretty guarded about using words like that, and in this one, I think all of us right away felt comfortable using that. The location, the condition. some of the contributing factors, I feel very confident saying suspicious.
I'm just trying to think of the site again, so
Mhm.
the property owner, is there possible, I mean, if somebody drove back there, right, could the car have been seen, or?
Someone would have had to been on the roadway, I think, in order for them to see a vehicle traveling to where Miss Arleth was found. I think would have had to been right on the roadway and have direct line of sight.
Do you think it's just randomly selected, that site, or?
It's hard to say. We've kind of kicked around different thoughts about how that place ended up being there.
Yeah.
And until we maybe get to do some additional interviews and talk to some more people, I wish I could determine, was it just by chance or was someone know the area, and it's still too early to make that call.
And I take it because it was a week, 2 weeks, that there were no tire tracks or anything of that nature at that point?
You know, our reporting party on this was up there cutting tall grass with a piece of equipment, and especially farmers, they're pretty good at watching for tire tracks in their property and land. And at that time, he said he didn't see anything leading up to the area until he actually saw the tarp. So if it had been, you know, more recent, maybe he would have saw something. But especially with that rain and heat that we had, the grass probably grew a couple inches a day, maybe, and covered up.
So was
It was.
he the property owner, or was he there?
It's land that he rents for agriculture use.
Okay, so he's a farmer.
Farmer, yeah.
And he's been cleared at this point?
Yeah, I mean, pretty early on, I think we pretty much determined that he wasn't involved, other than unfortunately finding the body and having to see that. Well, thanks again, guys, for coming on short notice, and any developments, anything that comes up, we'll make sure to keep you all informed.
Thank you.
Thank you.